All right, guys, we turn to the MLB with the latest admit their own restart. Last week, we broke down the latest regarding the offers and counter offers between the MLB and the MLB Players Association. This week, negotiations have picked back up, including a face to face meeting between MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred and MLBPA Executive Director Tony Clark. The latest negotiations are proposing a 60 to 70 game season, starting with spring training next week, an expanded playoff format, and a season ending at the end of September or early October. Now, while the sides are close, a deal still seems far away, with two sides disagreeing about revenue splits, salary advance forgiveness, and money for social causes, among other issues. So, Drake, does it seem like the MLB and MLBPA are close in this week, or do you see a deal? And do you see a deal getting done soon?
Well, I sure as hell hope so. Hey, they call baseball the America pastime, and it's damn sure gonna be the pastime, and they don't get it together.
Be the
Listen,
absolutely the past.
the past with the gravy on it. Listen, here's the deal. I don't know the ins and outs of baseball, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I do. That's what I got Jay for. He'll fix me up. But I just got to think this commissioner, as smart as he is, this player association rep, as smart as he is, you gonna tell me that you really gonna sit here and keep fumbling around and mess around and don't have a season? I mean, I don't. I look at both sides. I get what the player's saying. We want more games so we can get paid. The owner's saying, listen, we done lost so much money, we would not be in the green no matter what we do. So if we play, it's to the advantage of the players. I got all that. Somebody got to eat their pride and make this happen. The commissioner, doggone, he darn there on his knees begging to get this done. I mean, man, my man down here like, come on. He'd have been on ESPN, please. He'd have been on Fox. Yo, he's like, what do I got to do? Do I got to go to the local, get on the corner and start advertising myself? Like, what I got to do? Help me out here. So, with all that said, like I said, I'm more of, I take the mindset of the common guy, but here's the deal. We're going to get hot and spicy. I'm going to pass it over to Jay and let him tell y'all the ins and outs of this whole debacle.
Yeah, it seems like that we're heading in the right direction. We don't have a deal yet, but the last few days we've seen the league come up with a proposal, and the Players Association have a counter proposal. The league wanted 60 games, I believe, and the Players Association wanted 70 games. And when you just take into account those two numbers, I mean, it seems pretty simple if you just boil it down to number of games. Cut that in half. We have a 65-game season. Let's get it moving. Obviously, it's probably not that simple. There's other factors in play. I think salary advancement, we were discussing this earlier. That's one of the that's one of the hang-ups that seems to be in play right now. I don't think any of us are 100% sure of what that's all about. But today, it seems like we're in a more positive position than we were last week, because you write about Rob Manfred. He's got to be just pulling whatever hair he has left out of his head, because this has just been a nasty, ugly, and as usual, just optically, this has just been a horrendous look for America's pastime, which don't play a season and you will absolutely be in the past, and we'll just be we'll have sports like, I don't know, cornhole be passing you by with as much television time as that's
billiard.
Yeah. Throw it, sprinkle in some darts too, but and one of the things that the commissioner, he's kind of been a little wayward recently, saying one day saying, okay, we 100% gonna play ball, and then it seemed like the next day he comes out and says, you know what, now I'm not so sure if we gonna play. Can't get it together. And then what looked like turned the tide was Tony Clark, the Players Association president, or the senior position of the senior guy in the Players Association, came out and said, look, we're ready. Like, basically, there was a little social media post. He said, we're ready. Just tell us when and where. And the players kind of went out and they ran with that when and where theme. You had Max Scherzer, I believe it was Monday night. He came out on social media, posted a little when and where thing. And then the next day, you had the likes of Mike Trout and Bryce Harper getting in on that action. So, that's the old juice on Twitter really getting this thing revved up. And the players, throughout this entire process, the more and more I think about it, the players look pretty good in this instance. It looks like they've been saying the right things, doing the right things, and they've had their disagreements for sure. But it seems like the league and the owners, and to some extent Rob Manfred, they just haven't done a very good job managing this situation to the point where we're looking back like 3 months ago almost. They had a deal in place, and yet we're well into June now, and we're talking about negotiations that we've seen and offers to where we're talking about around 100 games. Well, now you continue to, dance around the issue and circle the target, and now we're sitting here talking between 60 and 70 games. So the more they can't get on the same page, the less games they're going to play, the less money players are going to make, and it's just all around bad look. But I will say, one of the couple of things interesting from the Players Association, I think when we talk about the revenue lost, I'm absolutely in the big picture. I think expanded playoffs, I don't like them. I didn't like the NFL expanded playoffs, what they got going on. But in a situation like this, when you talk about the playoffs is where baseball makes its money. And in that case, I believe in this situation right now for this season, expanded playoffs are probably a way to go, because I think that's where you can get more eyes on these games. And obviously there's going to be some teams in there that shouldn't be in the playoffs, but I think this is one of those situations where that extra money, you're going to take a little bit of, I would say, average to, dare I say, below average baseball, just to rake in a little bit more of that television revenue. So I think that is a positive in this case, although in the big picture, I'm not for it. And then the universal designated hitter, the National League has not gotten on that page yet. Pitchers still bat in the National League. But I think trying that out, maybe you try it out for this year and next year, see how it goes. And of course, as we know, I think in all sports, more offense leads to more viewers. So I think that's a good move.
I got a question for you, Jay. Now, you said the American League don't use the DH, right?
National League, American League's had
Okay.
it for quite a long time now.
All right. So is that something? Would that be something that's difficult for the NL to do, or like what are we talking about here?
It's not difficult at all. And historically, it's kind of one of those things I've never really looked into to see why those two leagues are not on the same page. But it's definitely been in the conversation of baseball lately, to progress towards the designated hitter across the league. And I think the general consensus is that the National League is going to get there eventually. They just haven't yet, but this could be one of those moments to where you're going to go ahead and we're going to have designated hitters across the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's some really encouraging signs here, like over from what we had from last week to this week. One of the things we talked about is the last two offers we had between the MLB and the MLBPA both fall within a 60 to 70 game window. So last week we had talked about offers of 48 games, the owners, and 100 games, and the players, and all the different salary stuff. And it's encouraging to note we've kind of fallen into a much more definable goalpost of about 60 to 70 games. Additionally, we can also look at this and say the last few proposals have included the players' full prorated salaries, so that doesn't seem to be a sticking point anymore. The MLB offered a few situations where, yeah, we'll play more games, but you're not getting paid your full salary amount, which in the last few, like basically since the start of June, no proposal has not had a full prorated salary. So I think you have some points where a negotiation isn't going to be required too much more. And I think your final deal is going to kind of fall into some of those goalposts. But it doesn't feel like this is almost done, because it's easy. Like you said, Jay, you just go, hey, 65 games split down the middle, let's go. But, as Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. The first issue is that every game you add onto the season right now is worth $25 million in player compensation. Every game you add is more money out of the owner's pockets because they're losing money every game that's played this season. The 3 whatever billion dollar loss gets cut up into games, and every game that's played in the season, they lose that much money. So the owners, obviously, they want the shortest possible season. They want to get this in, they want to get out, and they want to get to the postseason where they have the most money to be made, especially with the expanded playoffs. Like you were talking about, the MLB playoffs are going to be 8 teams this year and next year, which is expanded from what it normally is. And that's where the MLB does make most of its money, especially in TV revenue. The players, obviously, they want the opposite. They want more games for more salary. And even in that 10-game window, you're talking about $250 million in a vacuum of just one aspect of part of the negotiation. That's not counting any of the other stuff. We can talk about, the other baggage of the waiving grievances related to the March pay advances. Now, like you said, I'm not really exactly sure what that means, but it has to do with the players essentially waiving their grievances for the pay that was advanced to them in March, covering April and May. And it could be hundreds of millions of dollars on its own, depending who wins that, because I think that was at least $170 million that was advanced already. And I don't know if they have to repay that or how that works, but it could be a sticking point. There's also the revenue splits regarding TV deals and things like that. But I think when you break this down, this is what it comes down to, right? At the end of the day, the league is probably not going to move off about 60 games. It's too much money lost, and I think they're firmly committed to ending this by October. They don't want to stretch into a period where more shutdowns can occur, because we already see these virus cases are starting to creep back up. They don't want to overlap in the NBA Finals, which could occur no later than October 13th. And you also have the idea that NFL and possibly college football will be starting and being played by then. And they aren't going to want to put double headers in, which is one way you make up games within the calendar window you have put out. And they've argued that double headers, one, they don't want to do a bunch of them, and two, it's not safe for the players being all around each other that long of a time every day. So I think at this point, the MLBPA is going to have to accept 60 games. From there, then you can work on the auxiliary issues. You can work on the revenue sharing, the playoff money pools, your grievances. And I think that's where your wiggle room is still available, and you can ensure your players are taken care of. But if you keep trying to insist on more games and dragging this out, it's not going to work. And plus, every day that goes by, the owners are getting what they want because you're running out of time. You're physically running out of days on the calendar to get this pulled off. I mean, they're already talking about one of the proposals will be starting next week. I mean, starting spring training. So there just physically isn't that much time to do this. And every day you drag this on, the owners are going to win because you're going to run out of time to cram games into a season. So if you sit on 60 games, you get your full salary, you bargain for a few deal sweeteners, you can get the show on the road. But like I said, I think at this point, every day that goes by, the MLB is winning, and the players need to probably realize, like, okay, at some point we've got to just cut this off, get a deal, and get underway.